Legends of Tomorrow Season 2 premiere out of time. I gotta say, this premiere was not at all what I was expecting until it got to the very end of this first episode, because I was like, man, it starts off, we actually get a pretty cool crossover. It seems like they always cross over with Arrow more than they do with Flash. I always find that kind of interesting, because it starts off with kind of Oliver's tower, or his mayor's office, which is totally a repurposed version of Queen Consolidated from the other seasons. But it starts off with this random dude. He's running down the hallways. I thought that he was Rex Tyler. I just assumed he was the guy that showed up at the end of the first season. And he goes through, and he ends up actually being a totally different character. He ends up being this Dr. Heywood guy who ends up talking with Oliver, and he's like, I believe the Legends are in trouble. There's an atomic bomb, in the past. There have been alterations that have happened, and because of the way they do it in the show, it's not instantaneous where this happened and everyone knows it happened. It's slight alterations that if you look at it, if you catch it fast enough, you'll see that something went wrong. Excuse me. You see that something went wrong in the past. So we have this doctor who, by the way, first person, I think almost ever, maybe the second or third person ever in anything comics related is like, oh, I'm not dumb. You showed up. This dude showed up. You're the same person. So finally, somebody mentioned that. But he, I like what they did with his character where he comes in, he's like, I noticed these alterations. I had a buddy who helped me out. And if it weren't for them, then I never would have noticed these little subliminal, changes. But they find out that there was an atomic bomb that happened in New York that, of course, wasn't supposed to take place, and it was 2 years before the atomic bomb was supposed to be invented. So they go and they end up finding the ship. Somehow Oliver manages, if you watch Arrow, then you know it's crazy that he even remotely had the time to go to the ocean. But somehow he managed to have the time to, take a day or whatever to just go to the ocean, and they end up finding the Waverider underwater after it's, supposed to have been hit by a nuclear bomb, an atomic bomb. And so they get into the ship, everything seems fine. Oliver mentions as soon as they get on the ship, if they're supposed to have died here, then where are the bodies at? And they find Mick, and he's in stasis. So he wakes up, he tells them the whole story. We get to see them right after, well, it wasn't right after, because we actually find out later, it had been 6 months of them jumping through time after they spent time, or after they, encountered Rex Tyler. So they go back, they save some French dude. Sarah sleeps with his wife. He's not just some French dude, but I forgot what important French person it was supposed to be. Sarah sleeps with his wife. She slept with the Salem people at the end of the episode, which was also funny to me. But they go through, they find out, there are aberrations happening because time pirates might be giving random people, future technology. They might just be screwing stuff up for whatever reason. So we have a pretty cool opening, which of course Rip was mad because it's like, oh, you're using your giant, your atom suit to shoot laser beams, and you're fusing with another human to shoot fireballs as a third human. Great, thank you for doing all that stuff. But they also had great points. It's like, the other dudes had laser guns. Future tech doesn't matter anymore. But they go through that, and then they find out they have to stop a nuclear explosion from 1942. Now, my big question with this is, considering they were told not to go to 1942 because it would kill them, or because it was just bad in general, I'm curious if the reasoning for that was actually this episode, or if it's something that we haven't even seen yet. And I think the reason that they weren't supposed to go to 1942 was because of the JSA. They weren't supposed to go there because if they went to 1942, somehow, considering them having superpowers and doing these very grand missions, somehow they'd encounter the Justice Society of America, and that's why Rex didn't want them going back in time like that, because maybe they disbanded. I mean, they're actual heroes, because they have like Stargirl and stuff, and she literally flies down. So they have superpowered people. They aren't just people like trying to be heroes. They're actually superpowered humans, some of them at least. So I would assume it's more based on the idea of don't disrupt so much, because with them being heroes, they're going to want to know so much more about the future so that they can stop crime, that it would change too much, and that's just not what they're supposed to do as time travelers. They are, even if it's for the greater good, you just don't know what's going to happen next if you change this little thing. and then it screws up all that stuff in the future. So maybe that, I'm assuming that that's why they weren't supposed to go to 1942, but we have them go in there. Sarah is doing a bunch of research and stuff on Damien Dark, who somehow manages to remain a villain. The dude is technically dead, but because it's a time travel show, we got Damien Dark, so he's going with the Nazis. He's just evil to be evil. I swear, like every bad person, he's just like, I'll help you, just because. I don't think he really wanted anything. Like, it's surprising that in Arrow he managed to be a main villain, because you think he'd just be like, oh, you want to kill everybody? Sure, here's a nuke. It seems like that's what he does. So they go through that. They have to deal with him. He destroyed Sarah, which I was kind of surprised by, honestly, although we really don't know how old this dude is, because it's 1942. Who's to say he's old or young now, or then, I guess, in 1942, because he just lives forever, pretty much, with the Lazarus Pit. So, it was crazy seeing him come back, and I forgot that he was going to be in this, because I think it was mentioned a while back, that he was going to be in there, and so was his partner, Reverse Flash. But I gotta tell you, I freaking forgot about that, because when they had that ending scene after they, fixed everything up, and, they stopped the Einsteins from being kidnapped and all that, when they had that scene with Damien Dark, and the dude was like, oh, your partner isn't here now, is he? And then there's just red lightning running around. My mouth was just open, and then I'm normally not that surprised or shocked or anything. Sometimes I'm just like, whoa, or something. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, that's how messed up I was when I saw that. It was that good to me. I was just like, I don't know what to do now. So it like shattered my brain seeing the Reverse Flash, because I think after I saw him, I was like, I think I heard about this like months and months ago, before, I think it was before even the summer actually started, because I think, if I remember right, Legend of Tomorrow ended like fairly early for the normal season, and it was some news in there somewhere. I definitely remember hearing that now, but I'd forgotten all about that. And when he showed up and it was Reverse Flash, because I was thinking, it's Red Lightning, they're gonna have somebody in here, but who's it gonna be? And then you see the costume and it's Reverse Flash. I was just like, I don't understand how this works, but I'm so happy, because I love the Reverse Flash. And he's working with Damien Dark. These are two dead people who have managed to come back. Like, that's the craziest thing ever. So both these dudes are technically dead in some regard, but now there's the big question, at least for me, is that with me watching all the different shows, and especially with Flash, knowing Reverse Flash's storyline, I want to know if this is before everything with Barry, or if this is after. Like, does he know? Because technically he did what he did, and then he goes back to the future, if you know the Reverse Flash's story. And if you don't watch Flash, I won't really spoil it for you, but pretty much he does his thing and then he leaves. Like, that's like his main story in comics. Like, he's from the future and he kind of does this stuff to F with Flash, because he just hates the dude for no really good reason. He just hates him, and then he does that and kind of sticks around to F with him sometimes, but really he belongs in like the year 3000 and stuff like that. So it makes me wonder if for him this is before he does all the stuff that he does in the Flash series, or if this is him after that and he's like, you know what, I already did that stuff, let me go back even further and do some other crazy stuff, because it's really hard to tell. Plus there's some stuff going on with Flash, and there's a lot of Speed Force stuff. They could have a million explanations as to why he's in the past and why in the world he's working with Damien Dark, when you wouldn't think he'd want to change things like that. I just don't know. Like, he must know some secrets, like, alright, I can change this, but I can't change that, and it'll still allow me to survive, in existence, basically. So, I don't know. I would assume this has to be before the Flash stuff, if I'm being totally honest. But there's some in-between stuff that can happen. Like, it could either be before the Flash, or it could be, like, right after that big moment. There are a couple of little things that they could technically say, but I have to assume that this is technically before his time in the Flash series. So this is before he does his thing with Barry. This is just him jumping back in time. Maybe he's trying to do all sorts of villain stuff just to stop Barry from existing. I really can't tell. But we have a Speedster, and probably my favorite is Speedster, to be totally honest, even more than Barry. Reverse Flash, just because he's, you know, the villain Speedster. But I don't know. I don't know what to really expect from the two of them. It's a man who can travel through time from running. Like, he doesn't need a machine. He can run through time himself. He's got super speed. He basically can't be killed. If anything happens, he can react almost instantaneous to a normal person. So it's not like someone can shoot him and he's going to actually get hit. He'll dodge that junk like it's nothing and then phase through them and kill them with the, like, vibrating hand thing. So I don't know what to expect. There are a million different things going through my head. Like, how did they end up meeting? Why? You know, I mean, obviously, you know, Reverse Flash, I can't think of his actual name. Eobard Thawne. But obviously him going back in time, he knew where to meet Damien Dark. And maybe it's just to be a villain. I really don't know. And I just don't understand why. I guess it has to be before the Flash stuff. I mean, like I said, there's technically a very small portion where it could be in between because of something they did in the last season of Flash, where it's like, oh, this could technically be during that portion because they kind of introduced a little moment that I won't get into just in case. But it's crazy. I mean, he's changing the past, and he's working with Damien Dark. So we got these two dudes. I would love it if they killed Damien Dark because that would be awesome. And I don't think they could do that, though, sadly, because that would technically erase the ginormous chunk of Arrows, the Arrow series. So they can't do that because the last season Damien Dark was the main villain, and that was kind of how they did it, where it's like, oh, here's Damien Dark, who's clearly known a lot of crazy stuff, and that's when they first introduced him in Legends of Tomorrow, where it's like, oh, there's Damien Dark, and he's in the past, and that was, I think that was like the 60s or something last time, and now it's the 40s and stuff, so it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know what could happen, but I don't see them getting their revenge, because if they did, they'd have to change everything in the series, which would change what's happening right now. So I don't know. They could do it. That would be insanely ballsy, and I would love that, because it would be like, yeah, that whole chunk of time from the Arrow series, just, we gotta change all that. Like, that villain never existed, this never happened, that never happened. There's a very specific thing, which they talk about in the episode, obviously, that would be Laurel being killed by Damien Dark. That wouldn't happen, which would be awesome, because it would bring back the original, or second, I guess, Black Canary, because Sarah was the first. But it would bring back the Black Canary, and then it would also change a million other things, because Damien Dark as a villain would never have existed. So they probably won't do that, and that's the sad thing about it, because it's like, there's so many different elements where it's like, man, there's some way to bring her back, but there's just so much that would, you know, also have to change if they did that. But I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what's going to happen. Love the premiere. We don't know what the heck happened with Rip, so that's like the big mystery right now, is that, you know, everyone was time scattered, but, you know, he put Mick in stasis, and the first thing I thought when he did that was like, oh, well, if that's how that happened, why wouldn't he be able to do that himself? Like, Mick was completely protected. He was basically like in a shield, and at the same time, even when the show like first started, I was like, oh, it's destroyed. I thought they were going to be like swimming through the wreckage, and then they just get found some way in, and it's like, oh, the ship on the inside is basically 100% intact. So Rip is somewhere in time, but maybe he just decided to stay there and not do anything. Maybe he's, you know, back with Jonah Hex, and that's probably how they'll end up finding him. But I don't know. Like, he sent everyone to a bunch of different times. He really effed Jay over. That was messed up. He sent him back to prehistoric times. Why would he do that to him? But, you know, he's sent back to prehistoric time. Stein and Jefferson are sent to medieval times. And I love the thing is like, would you like to look into my magic mirror? Which also I was like, they must not have been there that long if his phone is still on. Because if you know cell phones, they don't last that long. So I was like, they must have gotten to them really early, but they got to Ray really late. Or another thing, I was just making crap up. I was like, well, they are firestorms, so they do technically make energy, so I guess. I was just making crap up, like, why their phone would even be on. But I thought that was funny. The dude was just like, the kid who looked like the kid that used to be on 2.5 Men to me, just to throw that out there. But it was funny. He was just like, I'm bored, off with their heads. And they just both got pissed, which I thought they would actually turn into Firestorm, because all they have to do is, like, grab each other's hands, which they did a cool version of that in this episode where Jefferson jumps off the thing. He did an Assassin's Creed dive, which if you play the game, you know what I mean. But that was an awesome one where he jumped off and then he dives like into Stein and then they transform in midair. So I thought that was cool, and I was like, it's weird that they wouldn't just be like, hey, we're like a foot away, just boop, touch like their fingertips and then fly right out of there. But they all get out of there, they go get Sarah, and then they have to figure out where Mick is, and then of course the JSA comes in. So I'm super excited to see what they do with the JSA. I don't know what they're gonna do with like the Legion of Superheroes, if they're actually gonna touch that, because like I mentioned when this episode started, it was nothing like I thought, because I thought it would pick up where the last season left off, and if it didn't do that, then we'd at least start somewhere where the character was still with them, and it's like, hey, this is what's happening, this is why I have the ship, you know, you told me to meet you here, all that stuff. I was like, oh, this seems like a pretty big deal, like, you told me to meet you here type of thing. And then we just skipped over that, and it was 6 months for them just kind of saving stuff throughout time. So I feel like there's some stuff that we missed, like, where did he go? Like, what message did he give them after finding them? Like, hey, this is what I need you guys to do. You told me to meet you here. This is what's happening, and this is what's going to happen. Don't go to 1942. All this little... I feel like there's more than just don't go to 1942. There had to be a bit more of an explanation, so I feel like we might get a flashback to that or something. I don't really know, but I'm excited to see where they go this season. This was a fun first episode. Not what I thought, but the second episode seems to be the one that I was expecting for this, where we get the JSA. It's not the way I thought it was going to be either, because it's actually the JSA, like in the comic books, where basically it's like, oh, the JSA is in the past, and then even though they don't have the Justice League just yet, that'll be like in the present. So I thought they were going to do an Earth 1, Earth 2 sort of thing for this season, but it's just JSA is in the past, and like I said, who knows if we're going to get like the Legion of Tomorrow and stuff like that, which is heroes like way off into the future. But who knows? That'll be cool if we did. We might get it, we might not get it. We might get some Earth 2 stuff with the Legends. We might not get that stuff. But I'm definitely excited for this season, of course. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about the premiere. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, at least favorite parts. And I want to know what your guesses are for where Rip is throughout time. Because it seems really weird at this point why he wouldn't just put himself in stasis, or why he would even be hurt or anything like that, because clearly the ship survived. It was messed up on the outside, but I mean, nothing was wrong with it. It didn't even get destroyed. Like, Mick was like, oh, we gotta save them, and he pushed a button and the ship came right back on. Everything was fine. So he left for a reason, and I just don't know what to think of that. It's like there's something there. He left them that secret message and he just disappeared. Maybe he just wanted to go back to the future and try to one last ditch effort to save his family, maybe. Who knows? But he's somewhere right now. We just don't know where. So I'm excited to see, you know, what the deal is with the big mystery on that. Why he took off when he could have just easily have, you know, got Mick right up, or left Mick in stasis to actually heal, and then just gone, you know, to be with the rest of the team. And maybe, who knows, maybe he got kidnapped. Maybe, you know, Reverse Flash and Dark actually went to the ship. I mean, clearly they took over the sub. Maybe they went a little closer. I mean, they're in the sub. I don't know what they could do, how they could transfer from, you know, ship to ship. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think of crap. Why did he leave? What was the reason for that? So, want to know your speculations, and of course, want to know what you guys thought about this premiere. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.